Rome Reports comes to you from the Department of Social Communications, Catholic Archdiocese of Accra, this and every Sunday from 3:30 to 4 p.m. on GTV.
Our family has spanned the centuries and the globe. With God's grace, we started hospitals to care for the sick. We established orphanages and help the poor. We are the largest charitable organization on the planet, bringing comfort to those in need. We educate more children than any other institution. We developed the scientific method and founded the college system. We defend the dignity of human life and uphold marriage. Guided by the Holy Spirit, we compiled the Bible. We are transformed by sacred scripture and sacred tradition, which have guided us for 2,000 years. We are the Catholic Church, with over 1 billion in our family, sharing in the sacraments and fullness of the Christian faith. Jesus started our church when he said to Peter, the first pope, "You are rock, and upon this rock I will build my church." So if you've been away from the Catholic Church, we invite you to take another look. Visit catholicscomehome.org today. We are Catholic. Welcome home.
Coming up in today's show, Pope Francis skips his spiritual exercises due to a bad cold. This missionary's experience in Sudan, Egypt, and now Turkey. The exciting new movie about the apparitions in Fatima. All this and much more here on Rome Reports.
To avoid spreading the coronavirus, the Vatican organized the Pope's general audience outdoors in St. Peter's Square. That morning, the Pope greeted many pilgrims. During his catechesis, he sent a greeting to the sick being treated for coronavirus.
Desidero esprimere nuovamente la mia vicinanza ai malati del coronavirus e agli operatori sanitari che li curano, come pure alle autorità civili e a tutti coloro che si stanno impegnando per assistere i pazienti e fermare il contagio.
The Pope had a mild cold, but the low temperatures aggravated the situation. In the evening that same day, he processed through the streets of Rome before celebrating Ash Wednesday Mass. It was evident even then that he wasn't feeling very well. Nevertheless, he celebrated Mass as usual. On Thursday, he met with the global Catholic climate movement. Then he canceled his meetings outside of the Vatican due to a mild cold. On Friday and Saturday, he held only private meetings, like this one with the major archbishop of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. He did, however, cancel all his meetings with groups. On Sunday, despite his cold, he prayed the Angelus and announced another change of plans regarding the Roman Curia's spiritual exercises.
Purtroppo il raffreddore mi costringe a non partecipare quest'anno. Seguirò da qui le meditazioni. Mi unisco spiritualmente alla Curia e a tutte le persone che stanno vivendo momenti di preghiera facendo gli esercizi spirituali a casa.
Pope Francis is 83 years old and has one of the most intense jobs in the world. His work would exhaust even the most experienced executive. He is also in relatively good health, as he hasn't had any major issues during the 7 years of his pontificate. Since he didn't have anything on his agenda this week, his physicians advised him to stay home and rest, rather than make the trip to the south of Rome. To leave no room for doubt, the Pope was tested for the coronavirus. His results showed up negative. Better safe than sorry.
Threats of the coronavirus circulating throughout Italy are not deterring tourists from coming to the Vatican. Yet whether from the United States, Luxembourg, or Peru, pilgrims are taking certain precautions while traveling, like masks and hand sanitizer. This couple from the United States participated in the general audience with the Pope, who they say didn't seem too concerned about the virus.
We saw him kiss that little boy and stuff, and he's touching people, so he didn't seem like he was too worried, I don't think. He doesn't have
Right.
gloves on or
He
anything.
didn't have any gloves or any precaution on, so, you know, I kind of wish he had them, but I think he didn't want to make that statement. You know, he didn't want to make that statement out to the public that he was also worried.
Gabriela says the coronavirus couldn't stop her and her granddaughter from traveling to the Vatican, a trip they had already arranged.
We came in an airplane, and I believe it was good they took the temperature of every person. It's a good precaution. I think if someone had a fever, they couldn't travel.
This group from Peru similarly was traveling around Europe. On their 15-day tour, they've traveled to Germany, France, Austria, and Holland. They say they are not canceling any plans before heading back to South America on March 3rd.
We ran into this coronavirus epidemic. That's why now we're taking precautions, and one of them is this mask.
But as far as us, we're really worried because of our flight.
Stuck here
Yeah, we don't get stuck here because the first thing I told her was, man, check the flights.
While panic is spreading, it's important to remember the virus's death rate is around 2%. Its victims are those with already existing health problems or weak immune systems, just like those of the normal flu.
Again this year, the Pope celebrated Ash Wednesday on the Aventine Hill in Rome. As per tradition, the Mass began here in the Basilica of St. Anselm with the penitential act. Afterward, Pope Francis walked to the Basilica of St. Sabina nearby. It is a short but meaningful procession, symbolizing the Lenten journey beginning on this day. During his homily, the Pope said human beings are dust, but dust infinitely valuable in the eyes of God. That, he said, is the meaning of Lent.
Perché la Quaresima non è il tempo per riversare sulla gente inutili moralismi, ma per riconoscere che le nostre misere ceneri sono amate da Dio. È tempo di grazia per accogliere lo sguardo d'amore di Dio su di noi e così guardati cambiare vita.
To change our lives means also to acknowledge our call to fulfill God's dream of loving, said Pope Francis.
Se vivo solo per portare a casa un po' di soldi e divertirmi, per cercare un po' di prestigio, fare un po' di carriera, vivo di polvere. Se giudico male la vita solo perché non sono tenuto in sufficiente considerazione o non ricevo dagli altri quello che credo di meritare, resto ancora a guardare la polvere.
That's why the Pope explained there are two paths from which to choose. One goes from dust to life and requires contemplating Christ. The other path leads from life to dust, when we reduce life to the ashes of selfishness and death.
C'è tanta polvere che sporca l'amore e abbruttisce la vita. Anche nella Chiesa, la casa di Dio, abbiamo lasciato depositare tanta polvere. La polvere della mondanità. Quante volte predichiamo una cosa e ne facciamo un'altra? Quante volte ci mostriamo buoni fuori e coviamo rancori dentro? Quanta doppiezza abbiamo nel cuore? È polvere che sporca, cenere che soffoca il fuoco dell'amore.
After the homily came the imposition of the ashes. The Pope was the first to receive them from Cardinal Joseph Bromko, who has the Basilica as his titular church. Then Pope Francis imposed the ashes on others. This ceremony marks the beginning of this year's Lenten season. Pope Francis invites Christians to take advantage of this time to shake off spiritual sluggishness. The Pope sent a powerful video message showing his support for those who work to stop abuse in Latin America.
Sigan trabajando, van a ser incomprendidos, le van a decir que pierdan el tiempo, los van a amenazar, porque también hay gente que amenaza. Y más de uno les va a decir que es capaz de alquilar un sicario para limpiar el campo. Sean prudentes. Cuídense, pero sigan siendo valientes y trabajen.
The Pope recorded this message after meeting with CEPROME. It's the main Latin American center dedicated to empowering lay people, priests, and bishops in the fight against abuse. It belongs to the Pontifical University of Mexico. Experts from CEPROME are offering courses and workshops throughout Latin America to detect abuse in Catholic institutions, to help victims, and to ensure safe environments. They partner with the Center for Child Protection, part of the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome, which is one of the most active institutions in the fight against abuse in the Church. Pope Francis met with members of the global Catholic climate movement, which aims to bring the environmental values of the Pope's encyclical Laudato Si to life around the world. He seemed very happy as he greeted each person individually. Cardinal Tagle introduced the movement to the Pope, then opened the floor for members to speak directly to Pope Francis.
Estamos muy conmovidos estar aquí con usted. Le damos las gracias.
Following their conversation, likely on environmental issues, they all prayed an Our Father together.
Padre nuestro, que estás
en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino. Hágase tu voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo.
Then came the customary exchange of gifts. The Pope gave each person a rosary. This representative in turn gave Pope Francis a special rosary made by nuns and Laudato Si animators from the Ecuadorian Amazon.
Qué bueno.
Son todas semillas amazónicas, de árboles amazónicos. Así que ahí tenemos a María, Madre de Amazonía ahora.
The Pope also showed his guests this tapestry. He explained that it shows God's hands creating the universe with tenderness and a sense of motherhood.
Laudato Si tiene que vivirse así, como este cuadro.
Finally, the Pope thanked the group and said goodbye to each person. He made them chuckle with this final request. The Global Catholic Climate Movement counts on a network of over 900 member organizations spread across the globe.
In December 2019, there was a pneumonia outbreak in Wuhan, China. On December 31st, the causing virus was isolated. It was a form of coronavirus. Little by little, it spread to other countries. The virus probably passed from bats to humans. Coming up after the break, a group will help bishops fight clerical sex abuse. You are watching Rome Reports. One year after the Abuse Summit, the Vatican has presented a concrete way for bishops' conferences around the world to prevent further sex abuse, a task force. It is a group of experts who will help bishops, laity, and religious congregations listen to victims and survivors, help with the formation of priests, laity, and sisters, and finally teach how to respond to an accusation. Andrew Atzopar, the director of the Safeguarding Commission for Minors and Vulnerable Adults, will be the coordinator of the task force in Rome. He will be assisted by canon law experts from various countries.
The task force will help institutions establish guidelines. They will have to indicate in these guidelines how to handle cases, the behaviors, and the guardianship attitudes. All these issues are provided in the rules. The bishops around the world will have answers and have to apply these rules. The task force will help them with the documents that will serve as guidelines to follow as a reference for all. The people who form this group don't all work in the same place. They can also work in different places. However, the coordinator who receives the requests for help from the episcopal conferences is who are in charge of preparing an answer, a study, or a proposal to answer the questions he's been sent.
The task force will not deal with legal parts of the cases. It's specifically for preventative measures and helping bishops who don't know what to do, how to handle cases and avoid further ones in the future. While there's no concrete office or website to address all the episcopal conferences, bishops can send any questions or concerns to an email address, taskforce@org.va. It's been 50 years since the beginning of the Congregation of the Causes of Saints under this name. To celebrate, the congregation not only had a private audience with Pope Francis, but also launched a new website, causassanti.va. Cardinal Becciu, prefect of the congregation, says this online presence makes them more relevant.
Today we're in the middle of easy communication in common for everyone, and communication at your fingertips. Adults use it, and above all, young people. So today, if you want to know something, you just have to click on the web and immediately you have the article.
Similarly, the website, currently only in Italian, explains the process to become a saint, beginning at the fame of the person to the diocesan phase to when it arrives at the Vatican. Each phase is explained in depth. Cardinal Becciu says the website makes his life easier since the process for every potential saint is updated online. Everyone can see if the cause has reached the congregation or even the Pope yet.
I don't have a great memory and I can't remember each saint, so I say look at the website and you'll find everything there.
Articles in the processes of venerables, blesseds, and saints are continuously being updated. Right now, blesseds date back to 1664 and saints to 1934. The process is one they have undertaken to make saints and blesseds available to everyone in the palm of their hand. In this way, as Cardinal Becciu says, they can inspire everyone to live their faith courageously and become the saints of today. This Comboni missionary has a life dedicated to others. Expedita Perez has spent 8 years in Sudan, 7 in Egypt, and is now preparing for her new destination. She knew Sudan when South Sudan had not yet begun. In the African country, she worked with the poorest of the poor and witnessed many injustices.
South Sudanese and Christians were citizens of third or fourth category. At that time, there was very visible persecution. Every December at Christmas parties, the government sent the tanks to sweep the chapels, where Christians celebrated, and took them to the desert where there was no water or anything.
Institutional violence caused many of these people to immigrate, seeking peace outside their own country. Sudanese and Eritreans arrived in Egypt by the thousands, which was the second place Expedita worked. The missionary helped these refugees while focusing above all on the little ones.
Jesus is still in Egypt because he is the incarnation. Where there is someone hungry, someone thirsty, someone in need, he is there. Who more than these children, who often arrive without their families, need our help, our solidarity, and our fraternity? Jesus is present in them.
In Egypt, Expedita also witnessed violence and discrimination against Christians. One of the last attacks she saw was this one against the Church of St. Mark in Alexandria. She says the Egyptian Christians are not afraid of martyrdom.
The Christian people who worked with us were almost crying when they told us, "Sister, I should have been there. Why wasn't I? I should have gone, but having to come to work here, I didn't go. If I had gone today, I would be a martyr for my faith."
According to her experience, Expedita explains daily coexistence between people of different religions is normal. She asserts extremists make too much noise, especially when they're in governments. Sudan and Egypt are two examples of countries where Christians practice their faith with a certain unease.
I am surprised there are no people looking toward the door in Rome. This is our experience in Sudan and Egypt. Although nobody stops going to religious celebrations out of fear, we all have an eye on the door.
The next destination of the religious sister is Turkey. There she will again work with immigrants and refugees, victims of new wars that are multiplying humanity's wounds. Luckily, there are people like Expedita who dedicate their lives to healing them. What is the sunniest city in the world? Yuma, Arizona, Aswan, Egypt, Barrow, Alaska. You are watching Rome Reports. What is the sunniest city in the world? Yuma, Arizona, Aswan, Egypt, Barrow, Alaska. The correct answer is A. Yuma has 11 hours of sunshine in winter and up to 13 in summer. You are watching Rome Reports.
Probably take lots of vitamin C just because it helps get your immune system going. So,
just sleep. Sleep's always the best remedy to get better, right?
I recommend the Pope to drink a lot of water. That's a great remedy for when you're cold.
I would tell him to stay indoors, follow all the procedures, and look after himself and keep himself warm.
In 1917, 3 children in the town of Fatima, Portugal, received a number of Marian apparitions. Today, 100 years later, their experience continues to impact the world. The film, Fatima, inspired by real events, tells the story of siblings Francisco and Jacinta and their cousin Lucia, who at a young age received several apparitions from the Blessed Mother.
Who are you? I come from heaven.
The film shows how the children's communication of these episodes is met with mixed reactions. Some respond with skepticism and even anger.
It is a sin making lies up.
It's true, Mama. She was as real as you are.
Why would the Mother of God choose you? What's so special about you?
Others, however, are drawn to the mystery of the lady of which the children speak.
I've come for the seers.
Thousands of pilgrims then travel to Fatima, hoping to see a miracle. What they see there will change them forever. The film is directed by Marco Pontecorvo. The soundtrack features the voice of Andrea Bocelli in the song Grazia Plena.
All you need to say now is, I made everything up.
The apparitions in Fatima remain widely known even today. After the church verified the legitimacy of the miracles, the town became one of Portugal's most popular pilgrimage sites, drawing over 5 million visitors each year. Even Pope Francis visited in 2017 for the 100th anniversary of the apparitions. The film will be released in theaters throughout North America on April 24, 2020. The Rhinoceros Gallery in the heart of Rome has become the temporary home of a timeless masterpiece. It's the painting Saints Peter and Paul by Greek artist Domenikos Theotokopoulos. More commonly known as El Greco, he is considered one of the greats of the 16th century Spanish Renaissance.
The fascinating thing is in some way he remains and will forever remain outside the history of art. That's because as a genius he can't be categorized. He fits into every single moment in art history.
The initiative is part of a 3-year collaboration between Fondazione Aldafendi Esperimenti and the State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia, the painting's permanent home. Aldafendi, the creative mastermind behind the project, says this specific work holds particular significance for the city of Rome.
It's a tribute to Rome. Saints Peter and Paul are the patrons of Rome. They represent Romanness. St. Peter holds the key to heaven. St. Paul holds the documents of Catholicism. They are truly 2 very important people, saints who represent Rome.
The painting unites elements of the artist's style, such as elongated figures and an innovative use of color. St. Peter is represented in yellow, while St. Paul is in red. El Greco creates a sense of unity in the painting through the direction of the 2 saints' gazes and the positioning of their hands. Despite initial reservations toward the artist, Raffaele Curi says his brilliance can't be denied.
El Greco's work, and especially this painting of Saints Peter and Paul, is marvelous. It's an absolute masterpiece.
The painting can be appreciated at Palazzo Rinoceros until March 15, 2020. Aldafendi believes art should be accessible to everyone, which is why the exhibition is completely free of charge. Fendi says next year's edition will be a surprise. For now, she hopes the general public will enjoy the priceless treasure currently on display.
In our next program, we see how Pope Francis picks up his normal routine after this cold. This and much more here on Rome Reports.
This historic monument was hidden for centuries in the middle of the Roman Forum, at the foot of the Curia Julia. It is dedicated to Romulus, one of the founders of Rome, according to tradition.
We know Romulus couldn't have been buried. Sources tell us he was quartered. Others say he ascended into heaven like the god Quirinus. So this place is a memorial. We should speak above all about a rediscovery because the excavations were made toward the end of the 19th century. What happened was that the structure of the Forum, what we see today in the Roman Forum, was buried. This means the interpretations which could be made then regarding the remains of Romulus that were found were very different from those we can make now 120 years later.
After many centuries, at the start of the 20th century, Giacomo Boni became the first person to reveal this monument's existence. He
discovered this whole area. He discovered the comitium, the lapis niger. He also discovered this monument. However, he publicly announced the discovery without interpreting it. After 120 years, we also found what Boni had discovered. He said he found a marble box with a small cylinder.
Thanks to its strategic and symbolic location under the Curia and a short distance from the place thought to be where Romulus died, some say celebrations honoring one of the founders of Rome were held here for centuries.
In our next program, we'll tell you all about the Pope's plans for Lent. This and much more here on Rome Reports.
I'd like to present a view of Christian evangelization you might not have heard before. See, if you want to effectively evangelize other people, perhaps you should start thinking of yourself as a mirror. Yes, that's right, a mirror. Those who don't know God, those who have not yet learned of Him and His love, need some kind of introduction, a sort of starting point. That's where the mirror comes in. You and I can become the very best evangelizers by simply being accurate reflections of God. The same Spirit that touched the apostles at Pentecost can embolden us to share our faith with those around us. When people see how faithfully we live our Catholic faith, they will start to understand the God they cannot see by seeing His reflection in us, the people they can see. When others witness the amazing things that come from a life lived faithfully for God, they'll want some of that too. Maybe St. Francis said it best. Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words.
Live true. Live Catholic. Live Catholic.
For over 2,000 years, the Catholic Church has consistently transformed through sacred scriptures and sacred tradition. It is comforting to know that some things remain consistent. Live truth, live Catholic. Visit our shop at Shiashi, opposite Gethsemane Cemetery, and find for yourselves the following: monstrance, chalice, candles, clerical shirts, Bibles, writings of the early church fathers, and other sacramentals. For more information, contact Live Truth, Live Catholic Bookshop on 020-222-0376 or 024-960-6155. Live Truth, Live Catholic, your number one stop shop for your religious items.
Rome Reports comes to you from the Department of Social Communications, Catholic Archdiocese of Accra. This and every Sunday from 3:30 to 4 p.m. on GTV.